Welcome to Giants Latest, and the Stafford news is heating up, but we just got breaking news that Matt Stafford is staying with the Rams. But let's talk about what went on with the Giants a little bit, because there's some interesting information behind the deal that the Giants offered him, and as far as I'm concerned, it's extremely concerning for us as Giants fans. So this is what happened. Matt Stafford was meeting with the Rams today, but prior to that, he had two different offers, one from the Raiders and one from the Giants, both which were supposedly over $50 million a year. Now, it's an obscene amount of money, but when you look at guys like Trevor Lawrence and Dak Prescott and some of the other quarterbacks who have gotten these massive deals, Matt Stafford is in theory worth that type of money, right? He's won a Super Bowl. He was one play away from going to the NFC Championship. He's a good quarterback, but the concerns are that he's 37 years old, he's injury prone and things like that. So Matt Stafford is staying in LA, but the Giants, this should make everyone concerned. And I am glad for one that Matt Stafford is staying in LA, but I have a real concern now with how this front office is running things, because it was reported to me from a reliable source who knows someone in the building that the Giants offered Matt Stafford $110 million guaranteed, $55 million per year for 2 years. In what world is that a good idea? In what world? And I understand that Joe Schoen is going based on the premise of, he thinks the Giants are not that far off, which God bless him. I don't know what Giants games he was watching last year, but they were not the same games that I was watching, because the Giants are not a quarterback away, okay? All us rational people understand that. Now, Matt Stafford would make this team better. There's no question about that. That's not an argument. The argument is, if you give an aging bridge quarterback $110 million, what are you doing in the right guard position that you don't have a starter right now? What are you doing at the cornerback position? You don't have a cornerback one. What are you doing at defensive line opposite Dexter Lawrence? What are you doing at wide receiver? There's so many other questions that to put all of your eggs into one basket, that's a 37-year-old aging quarterback, is insanity. So I, for one, am glad that this is done. The Stafford news is over for Giants fans. He is staying with the Rams. Let's move along and talk about the Combine, because day one happened, and we got to talk about one specific player who had an excellent day and is one of the few people who almost walked away from the Combine with a 100% composite rating, which is almost unheard of. So let's talk about defensive end Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M. Now, this is a guy that I was lucky enough to watch. I went to the Senior Bowl and I got to see him up close and personal, and the guy's a freak. He is a freak athlete. He's unbelievable. He is definitely a first rounder. I think, when things like this happen at the Combine, this is the type of stuff that really improves guys' draft stock. So whatever he was thinking about, where he was going to go before that, I guarantee his Combine performance increased that even more. So let's talk through some of his stats a little bit. So he is 6'5", 267 pounds. He did not do the bench press as of this composite score, but his explosion grade is elite. He ran, his vertical 40 was rated 9.89, and the broad was 1011, 9.95. Composite rating off the charts, unbelievable. His speed grade was also listed as elite. The 40-yard dash, he ran a 4.59. The 20-yard split, he ran a 2.66. And the 10-yard split is 1.58. So the guy's a freak. His arm length is over 34 inches. He had an unbelievable combine, and he's a guy that is going to be an impact player from day one for any teams. Now, I still think he's probably going to go middle of the first round, so probably not going to be someone that the Giants are going to be targeting, but a guy to watch for sure. Honestly, knowing our luck as Giants fans, he'll probably go to the Eagles. Oh my God, knock on wood, I hope that does not happen. But it would not be surprised. It just would be so Giants if that happened. However, the Giants are in the third overall pick, and they are going to have good options to bring in at the third pick. And if they decide to trade back for whatever reason and Shamar Stewart is on the board, he is absolutely a guy that they need to consider. Now, someone else that the Giants need to consider is Cam Ward. He has made his decision that he will not be throwing at the Combine. This is not really a surprise to anyone. Obviously, there was some speculation because he did take a little bit while longer than Shedeur Sanders to make up his mind, but he is not throwing. And, like Joe Schoen said, it doesn't really knock his draft stock all that much, because the quarterbacks, when they're at the combine, they're throwing to receivers that they don't have any rapport with and they don't know how they run their routes. And, you're also looking at the wide receivers to see how good of route runners they are, obviously, aside from catching and things like that, is if he had a really poor performance at the combine, I think it could affect him more negatively than if he had a great performance at the combine, because he had really great performances this year, and that's all going to show up on tape. And when draft experts and scouts are analyzing these players, the tape is what is most important, not what he did one day at the combine or not one day at the Senior Bowl or the Shrine Bowl. So I think that Cam Ward not throwing is fine. Personally, I kind of would have liked to see him throw just because Shedeur wasn't, and I would have been curious to see how or if that affected things between the two of them at all. But I don't blame Cam Ward for not doing it. And like I said, I don't think it's going to affect his draft stock at all. So Cam Ward is a guy that I love. I would love for the Giants to get him at 3, although as the days go on, I'm not feeling more confident about that. But another quarterback we have to talk about is Shedeur Sanders, because when I heard what the Giants offered Stafford, I also heard something horrific, which is that the Giants are really considering trading up to 1 to get Shedeur Sanders. And I have a lot of problems with this, as I'm sure most of us do. And listen, I understand that if you're Joe Schoen, you have to do whatever it takes to bring in your guy, okay? I fully understand that. If they are convinced, which according to some of the things that I've heard, it sounds like they are convinced that he's their guy, which I was hoping it's all smoke and mirrors, and maybe I'm still right on that. Maybe it's all BS. Fingers crossed, I can only hope. But if they really feel like Sanders is their guy, yes, they need to have the conviction on him and they need to be aggressive. However, everything that we are seeing and hearing up until this point leads us to believe that Sanders is going to be there at 3. It is highly, highly likely that Abdul Carter is going to be the number 1 overall pick. And number 2 is likely to be Cam Ward or Travis Hunter. Shedeur Sanders, I would bet so much money on this. If I have the option to do it, I will. That Shedeur Sanders will be there at 3 for the Giants. And I think that they are absolutely insane to even consider trading up to 1. I mean, it's one thing to trade for 2, right? But the Titans are in a position where they have basically a whole new front office. They're not going to force the quarterback pick. They still have Will Levis on the roster. If they go after a veteran quarterback in free agency, which is what they should do, and it's likely that they will do that, they have the flexibility to do anything at 1. And if you think that they're going to pick Shedeur Sanders at 1, you must be insane, because I really don't think there's any possibility that the Titans are going to do that. And we all know that Deion Sanders is going to get very involved and not let his son go to Cleveland. Cleveland is where quarterbacks go to die. We know this, okay? It's kind of funny, but it's not. But they still have Deshaun Watson on the roster. I don't know how much they love Shedeur Sanders, but they could also get Cam Ward at 2. And from everything that I'm seeing, the theory is that Shedeur Sanders is more NFL ready, but Cam Ward has the higher potential. And this is from the experts who've watched hours and hours and hours of tape. And, I just think, in my opinion, that Ward is the better option. And I think that if you're the Browns and you're going to have to worry about Deion Sanders getting in your way, and, listen, if he's going to be a nightmare on draft night, could you imagine what he's going to be like for the next 4 years, 5 years with a rookie quarterback and his son, Shedeur Sanders? Like, it's not going to go well, okay? So if you're the Browns, I think that the smart move is to go Ward if you want the quarterback, and if not, it's to go Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter. I think there is a 100% chance that Shedeur Sanders is going to be there at 3, and I just think that the Giants are absolutely insane to trade up to 1 for him, and that is one of the things that will really make me feel like this front office is going off of Hail Marys. They have no idea, absolutely no idea what they're doing, and they are mortgaging the future for the present, and I, under no circumstances, can get on board with that. But free agency is not here just yet. We are still a month away, 2 months away from the draft. There is a lot that could happen, so stay tuned and stay watching here on Giants Latest for more.